Hello, everyone. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and this is Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends. So, welcome and happy almost Thanksgiving. Some of us have more to give thanks for than others, but hopefully you've got something. So, tonight I'm going to talk about something very dear to my heart, which is living with uncertainty. And I want to talk about uncertainty and why it's hard to live with. Then I want to talk about how certainty ain't so great either, and how uncertainty and certainty are connected to each other. And I'd like you to share too your thoughts and what you're going through. That would be really cool. In order to do that, you would need to put a comment in YouTube or in my public Facebook page. If you're on my personal page, I won't see the comment. But if you're on the public page, which is Beth Green, the music and message of Beth Green, Granny Rocks, the music and message. I think that's the name of my page. Anyway, something like that. So, but let me start out by putting out some thoughts, and then I'm going to bring on our panel, our usual panel. So, and Charlie is here, the dog. He's sitting in the chair next to me that you can't see him. So, uncertainty is for me, and I know for a lot of people, extremely hard to live with. And I want to talk about why. Some of the understandable things, some of the kind of neurotic things, and so on. And that's before I get into the whole issue of is certainty that great either. So, one of the things that I think that we realize is that we're always future oriented to some degree. Um, for example, James and I have been trying to sell a house and move for like this is the third year. And it's not the fault of our house. It's not our fault. It's not the price. It's the market. Okay. And so we've been living with this uncertainty, and it's like, are we going to move? Are we not going to move? Should we look for a house? Where should we go? What are we going to do when we get there? Is it going to work out? And there's all of a sudden, we find ourselves like through all of this anxiety that we cannot resolve because we can't get there. And I know when we get there, if we do move, that there will be some resolution. We'll discover that it was the greatest thing we ever thought of, or it was a stupid mistake and we wish we hadn't moved, or one of those things. But at least we will have replace that uncertainty, that anxiety that comes from the not knowing what's going to happen. And when I say that there's a realistic aspect of this, for example, I've been having trouble with my legs because I fell a couple of months ago, about 4 months ago, and I haven't been good ever since. So we just put grab bars in the bathroom. Should we put a ramp in the living room? Should we invest in things that we would need if we're going to live here? Or should we try to get by with what we have? So it's a very practical matter. Are we moving or aren't we moving? So what we end up looking at it and say, all right, well, what are the things that we absolutely have to do today anyway, like the grab bars in the bathroom, in the shower? Can I get away with not putting a ramp in the living room? So, because what I do today depends to a large extent on what I'm going to do tomorrow. Supposing you think you're going off to college, let's say, and you're in high school and you're a woman and you meet a woman who just, you fall in love. Well, are you supposed to let yourself fall in love with this woman? Uh, Or are you not supposed to let yourself fall in love with this woman? Are you really going to go to school next year, or are you going to change your mind and stay home because you're in love with this woman? So, what I do, how I prepare myself emotionally, how I gear myself emotionally for the future is happening today, even though something may be a few months out, a year out, 20 years out. So we don't always think about it that way, but in fact, our day to day decisions are to a great extent determined by the long term likelihood of something happening or not happening. Let's say you knew in advance that you were going to die at the end of the year, which is only like a month away now. And so you said, well, what would I like to do? I'm going to spend all my money. I don't care anymore because I'm going to die anyway. I'm not going to need to save for my retirement because there isn't going to be a retirement. Or I'm going to eat all the cheesecake I want. I wouldn't do that anyway, but I would eat all the cheesecake I want because my health, it doesn't matter. I'm going to die anyway. And so if you think about all of these little decisions that you make every day, you might realize that what you do today is so much oriented to what your expectation is. Like, am I going to study and try to do well on these tests because I anticipate that I'm going to go to college, or do I not care? Because I'm going to inherit $1 million from my parents and I'm going to go off and be a beatnik. So, am I going to study? Am I not going to study? Okay, so you can say, well, you should study if you like studying, or if you're interested, or you should not. But in fact, we are very influenced by what we believe is going to happen, and I see this also in our society where people are saying, "Oh, it's hopeless. Things are never going to change," and then they say, "Okay, I'm going to acquiesce. I'm going to give in. I'm going to go along with what's happening in our society because it's not going to change anyway." And then all of a sudden you start to get a whiff. Oh, well, wait a minute. It looks like things already have changed or are rapidly changing. It's like, well, wait a minute. I don't have to do that because I now have a different future that I'm aiming for. So the biggest issue for me of uncertainty is I don't know how I should live today. How should I prepare myself? Should I prepare myself to say, okay, I'm going to die here every summer, or am I going to, rather than move to a place where I die every winter? So I want you to think about that for a minute, about some of the things that you're uncertain about and how you feel that that's impacting you in the very moment, and in a way getting in the way of you doing what you really feel is right. And of course, the only solution is to feel in the moment. So that's part of the uncertainty. And then there's just the anxiety. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is this guy going to like me? Does he like me? Doesn't he like me? I mean, what did it mean when he looked at me, or he raised his eyebrows, or he did this? I mean, and then you start interpreting everything because you're uncertain. And then you're exhausting yourself, putting all this energy into trying to interpret the signs from the universe. Oh, does this mean such and such? Or did that mean such? And sometimes it's from a person, and sometimes it's just from the universe. Oh my God, the weather is so terrible. That's a sign we should move, or shouldn't we move, or whatever. So, do you get what I'm talking about? It's like it's a never ending, moment by moment of anxiety. And then we just have to bring ourselves down and saying, okay, well, how do I want to live my life today? Even if I were going to die in a month, would I really want to go do X, Y, or Z, or would I rather do A, B, or C? Now, I want to talk very uh, in a similar way about certainty, because so many of us think, oh, certainty is so much better because then I'll know what to do with my life, or today, or with my feelings, or how I should prepare myself. Will my dog live or die? Well, when you have certainty, you might feel depressed. I know that I'm going to follow in the footsteps of my father. He was a tax accountant, and it's already been written that I am going to be a tax accountant too. I'm certain I've accepted that. Everybody in the family expects that from me, and I have certainty. But is it good? Is it a happy feeling? Is it a happy certainty, or is it a dread like, "Oh god, I don't even like accounting. What am I thinking?" But I know I'm gonna get married, and from my experience, marriage is always a disaster. I might tell myself that I'm madly in love, but I can see that as a woman, I'm gonna get repressed, or I'm gonna get bitchy, or whatever it is. And so there's a dread associated with certainty because it feels so damn certain. I can't get out of this. Whereas when you're uncertain, it seems like anything could happen. Anything is possible. Oh my God, some miracle could occur. And maybe we'll discover that we've inherited a villa in Italy that we from a relative that we didn't know we had. And then all of a sudden there's all new possibilities, right? And my life could change completely. And that could be exciting or terrifying or whatever it is. So certainty is kind of negative sometimes. I am certain that this person is going to behave in this way, and he always does. And what am I going to do? I feel doomed. So either I'm anxious or I'm depressed. Now, here's the joke about certainty, which you probably have figured out already, because if you're watching the show, you're pretty smart. So, certainty is always uncertain. Let's say it's been planned since you were born that you're going to marry your third cousin 4 times removed because you're in the royal family and that's going to be arranged or has been arranged. And so, you're trying to pretend that you're okay with that, but that's a certainty. It's just certain you have to do this. Well, on the way to the wedding, the guy's in an automobile accident and he's dead by the time you get to the altar. What happened to your certainty? What happened to everybody's certainty? The person you think is going to win loses, and then suddenly everything is possible, or anything is possible for better or worse. The truth is, there is no certainty. Okay, now let's say you've been hoping that you're going to get married. Now, I know fewer and fewer people are even hoping that these days, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, let's say you want to get married and you've been looking forward to it and you've been planning on it and okay, and you've been very anxious. Does your partner really want to marry you? Do they really love you? Are they marrying you for your money? It's great. If you have no money, you don't have to worry about that. And all that uncertainty, but it's all sorted out. You're going. And so let's say it happens. You get to the altar or to the justice of the peace, and now, boom, 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 you're married. Well, everybody who goes through this knows that you get so caught up in getting ready to get married and all the wedding that who's thinking about the marriage, and then all of a sudden you're married and you are back in uncertainty because what is that marriage going to feel like? Supposing we did sell our house today, which we didn't, they're uncertain. Who knows what's going on with them? um, and our certainty is depending on their certainty. It would have been great if we had gotten an offer, but they have to think about it. So they're uncertain, which means that we're uncertain, which makes us anxious. But supposing it actually had happened, then we would be living in a world of uncertainty. Where are we going to go? There's nothing on the market. Where should we live? Is this really the right place? Is this really right? And all of a sudden, our anxiety level is through the roof. So one certainty can lead to 1,000 uncertainties. And I will give you another example of that, which you probably already have thought of, or if not, it'll seem very familiar to you. We've been trying for years to get pregnant. And you've lived not only with the in vitro and the hormones and all of that and the uncertainty, and now it's there. You're pregnant. Well, you're not certain that it's going to be a viable pregnancy. You're not certain that you're going to come to term. You're not certain that the child will be healthy. You're not certain what your relationship will be like. You're not certain about how you are actually going to react to being a mother, even though in advance you are so certain this is the thing that I've dreamed of since I was 7 years old when I played with dolls. So, and then you discover that certainly having a child has nothing to do with the dream you had when you were 7 years old. And now you're uncertain about your ability to handle it. You're uncertain about your partner's ability to handle it if you have a partner, and so on and so on and so on. And then you go out and you finally adopt that dog, and you get the dog, and it's got health problems. So, what I'm saying is, oh my God, there is no certainty. There never will be any certainty. So you're gonna have to learn to live with uncertainty no matter how much you try to box yourself into something. In fact, you may have uncertainty now about how to get out of something that you worked really hard to get into. Because once you get into it, you say, I didn't really want that job. I thought I really wanted that job or that profession, or I wanted it. I was sure that I wanted to run for Senate, and now I'm a senator. And oh my God, I'm getting hate mail and death threats from my constituents or other people. So just remember this: life is never certain, and when it is, we can dread it. And even in that moment of certainty, we can discover that things can be very different from what we expect. So, on that fun topic, I would like to bring on the panel who had no idea what I was going to talk about tonight. Um, and I will introduce you. I will certainly introduce you, and I'm totally uncertain as to what they are going to say. So, the first person is Lizzie Treehard. And next comes Todd. It's just how it appears on my screen. That's the order. Todd Benton. And last but not least, my hubby, James Maynard.
Hello, hello.
Eh, So, welcome everybody to the land of uncertainty and how bad it feels when we really are certain, and how much we may feel frustrated and boxed in to the things that we may have chosen or that may have been chosen for us, and how even that gets thrown up in the air. So, who would like to share first?
Hmm. Let's jump right
Have,
in.
I'm
are
not
you all,
certain.
have I left you all speechless?
Well, I'll take a stab at it.
Thank
Um,
you, Lizzie.
how many of us, drive to work or go to the grocery store, expect to go there, work, get your things, come home. Um, so in that respect, that could be certain. Um, but yet, if you're in a car wreck, that changes things. So we can expect that certainty, but it can change on a dime.
Right,
Um,
and the product that you always get at that store isn't in that day, and you had planned on eating it for dinner.
yes, that. Or, thinking I have a stable job and go to work one day and the doors are locked and the lights are off and nobody's answering the phone and they closed and didn't say a word.
Right, how true it is. And what a relief it is. While it's very anxiety producing, it's also a relief because, oh, thank God. I mean, I don't know. Every time I've quit a job, I have felt so free until, of course, 10 minutes later when I realize I also have no income. By the way, here's a comment from Amy. Your words are helping me be able to realize that uncertainty is not something I should have to resolve. It's just life.
Yeah.
That is certainly true, Amy. That's for certain. Going back to you, Lizzie, that's
And
you're exactly right.
I'd like to learn from our fur baby, who's a beautiful Australian shepherd, that, he just lives moment by moment.
Yeah.
If we did that, I mean, but yeah, he's certain that we're going to feed him. And, give him
He
water.
doesn't even have to be certain that you feed him because you automatically feed him. His certainty or a lack of certainty isn't a a prerequisite for him to know what to do. He waits for the food and then he knows what to do, which is to eat him. Amy said, "I should have said that I don't need to resolve uncertainty." Uh, Yeah, no, you said it very clearly. We understand that. You can't ever get rid of it. It's not like, oh, so all of a sudden, I'm going to give. So that's right, Lizzie. Back to your point.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, we all have uncertainty. If we could just learn how to just be.
Well, but here I'm going to play devil's advocate because the difference between you and your dog is that your dog at this point has doesn't have to think about the future because you think about the future for him.
That's true.
So you know that your dog is going to be hungry at 6 p.m. Or if it's my dog, it's any time of the day or night. He would eat, right? So he doesn't have to gear himself up. It's not like he's in the wild and he has to be ready to go and get his prey. So he's being guided by that need. He just really can live. And it's so different for us humans. Now, I agree with you that we do need to learn how to live more in the moment and recognizing that uncertainty is part of it is part of learning how to live in the moment because our lives are just replete with uncertainty. And yet, as humans, if we don't take care of the leak in the roof will collapse. So we do know that we have to be guided by some awareness. Oh, I didn't know that if you don't take care of a leak, that the roof will collapse. That it was, no, I didn't know that. Well, you better find out. So, and that's may not be a certainty, but in my experience, it's what happens because then it gets moldy and then everything starts falling down and, it's like sags. And so, in a way, we're caught up in a society where we have to be somewhat future oriented. We just have to be, which is what makes the uncertainty certainty conversation, a little bit different for you than the dog. So don't put yourself down because you're lucky that your dog is lucky that you're thinking ahead and made sure that there was dog food
Yeah.
when you went to the store.
Yeah. So, what can we do to relax in uncertainty?
Well, the first thing is what Amy was referring to, which is to really accept that reality that that it's always uncertain, that everything is uncertain, and also to rebel against the constraints of certainty, of the things that we've decided are inevitable. I am certain that my girlfriend's family is going to disapprove of her being in a lesbian relationship, for example. Well, you don't know that, right? Or I'm certain, maybe the girlfriend's family will be delighted, or maybe You go home with a black boyfriend and your family disowns you, which is what happened to me. So, I didn't know that was going to happen. But in a way, it's better. I didn't know it. I didn't care. It wasn't going to guide me. So you see, it's very tricky living in the moment, because we have to be guided by something, and we're guided by faith, and the guided by faith says, whatever happens, I'm going to be fine. And that's very stupid, because you may not be fine. You may contract some horrible disease and you're going to die. But if you tell yourself that whatever happens, if I get it or I don't get it, I'm going to be fine, you'll be more relaxed, and you'll be able to deal with uncertainty better from a relaxed place. You'll be able to deal with everything better from a relaxed place. Amy says it helps to look at uncertainties as possibilities instead of something to immediately try to get rid of. Exactly. That's a very important point. So, yes, James.
Yeah, I'd like to share. Um, I've come to feel that I have to have a certain amount of acceptance and relaxedness around uncertainty. I have to have a certain amount of courage to face whatever happens, and some sort of confidence in myself that I will cope regardless of what happens. And like you say, it may not work out that way, but it helps to have that kind of confidence. When I first moved to the West Coast, I was living in southern Texas, and I really wanted to move to California. And so my then wife at that time and myself decided to head out for California, even though we didn't have enough money for gas to make it all that way. But I did have a few potential appointments lined up for hypnotherapy work, and this got me to Los Angeles. And then we wanted to go further north, and so we had more appointments of sessions that enabled us to then go to Oregon to join up with some people who were forming a spiritual community. So it's like we were living totally with uncertainty, but had some faith that we just got to make a move. We just got to move ahead. And what's going to happen if it doesn't work out? Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe you wind up in some spot between Texas and California
And you never leave.
and you get a job.
That's really important what you're saying, and very positive, James, because that that is exactly how we have to approach it. It's like, oh, I have total faith that we're going to have enough gas money, because I'll do a couple of sessions of healing sessions across the along the way, or something will happen and I'll get money. And you have faith in that, and if that doesn't happen, then you say, oh, I guess we're meant to stay here, which is a nice way to live. And that's absolutely, as you were saying, is it relates to how much confidence you have in your own ability to cope with everything, with change, with life itself. And that's such a good point, because I think a lot of our anxiety around uncertainty comes from our fear that, oh, if something unexpected happens, it's going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be a disaster. And it's so important not to get attached to a particular outcome. I mean, everybody knows this, but it's hard to practice, right? Don't get attached to a certain outcome and think that if it doesn't happen, it's going to be a disaster, because all that catastrophizing about what might happen can make you super anxious, more than the uncertainty itself. So, Todd, do you have something that you want to share?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I've been thinking about this a lot since you both spoke, and then Lizzie and James. So it gave me a time to reflect. And it's funny because I would say that I'm not necessarily a centered person. I'm somewhat reactive, but I'm learning from this that, like, if I look at my history, I've done pretty well in uncertain situations.
Mm.
Like, I've actually responded well. Even though I might have been anxious, I probably would have responded better if I wasn't so anxious. So it's a good life lesson to see that. I mean, I'm 62 years old. There's quite a bit of time left, I think. But again, uncertainty, we don't know. But I'm trying to live every day, like giving it my all, going for it, not waiting. But I've been thinking about the certainties. Like I'm not certain. I mean, I'm certain that I'm going to stay married to my wife. At least if I have anything to do with it, but who knows? Again, you can't be 100% certain, but I'm pretty certain, and that's a certainty I
Well,
look forward to.
you're certain that it is your intention
Yeah.
to
Yes.
live with that you're going to be living with your wife. And
Yes.
that's an important distinction. I just want to make, because you brought that up, that's such a good thing to remind ourselves. It
Mhm.
is your intention. She could die, she
Yeah.
could divorce you, or
Right.
you could change,
Yeah.
and you just suddenly discover you're gay. You know, so I mean, it, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Or or you live to 100 and she dies at 92.
Yeah.
So all of that. But I just want to say that what you can say is, I am certain that it is my intention in this moment. But
Yeah. So but I think having that, like you said, not attached to an outcome and be very malleable with your beliefs and
Mhm.
malleable with my beliefs and malleable with the reality that I think is fixed, that makes life a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, and if you try to look for the silver lining, you may be completely delusional, but at the same time, it might just keep you going.
Mhm.
Well, it looks like we did it. I'd like to ask you to give a love or a like to the show on Facebook, or give it a thumbs up on YouTube, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Leave comments, even if you're watching afterwards. Share the program with your friends who you think this might help, because people have, oh my God, so much uncertainty in their lives. You're sitting there and you discover that your life partner has some potentially fatal disease, and you live the next 2 years grinding your teeth because you're living with so much uncertainty and so much fear and all of the things that are impacted by that. And here, I'm going to end with a wish that you come back next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time for our live show on YouTube and Facebook. Granny, Facebook.com/Granny Rocks On. And it's at Beth Green TV on YouTube. So we'd love to see you again. And on Thursday nights, James and I do magical improvs, which is music, which is totally uncertain because we improvise. We never know what we're going to do, and we don't really know if we'll be alive tomorrow to play for you. But we go on the assumption that we will, and it it does really help to have that positive outlook that Todd and James really emphasized tonight in their shares about, I can handle it. I can handle it. I may not be able to handle whether or not there's an earthquake, because it's all becomes moot when the earth quakes and your house falls down. And you said, "Oh, I'm finally going to get the bathroom remodeled." Oh yeah, now your bathroom is going to be totally remodeled. So and with global warming, guys, life becomes more uncertain every day. There used to be some sense about the seasons and the weather. It was never exact, but more so than it is now. I mean, it's this constant fear about what's going to happen, and that feeling like, okay, I'm going to be okay, or I can make the best of this, or there's a challenge in this, that I can be creative, and that I can get out of the old rut, right? And that I can maybe recreate my life in a better way than I even expected. So with that, I'm going to say goodnight, and we're going to have a little music to take us out if it works.